I'm Veronica Marshall at the Capitol. This week on Senate Spotlight, the technology of the future is here. Are we ready for it? Legislators debate how to meet the moment.
It's almost like death by regulation. There's so many regulations on there that I don't think these companies would come to Minnesota.
The arguments for and against regulating new technology and emerging industries. Plus, non-disclosure agreements are being tied to data center development plans, leaving residents in the dark.
Imagine if we came forward with Senate File 1, it's a secret, right? And then we just called it Senate File 1 and we didn't tell people what it did and then we passed it and appropriated money. That would be kind of crazy.
Details on the push to stop the use of NDAs in government. And
we have seen online companies that are using Minnesota's sweepstakes law to effectively offer online gambling.
The latest legislative efforts to protect consumers by closing a loophole that allows illegal online gambling. That's all coming up.
Senate Spotlight is produced by the Minnesota Senate and Senate Media Services.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, is simply a tool. And like any tool, its impact depends entirely on how it's used and who is using it. In some circumstances, it can increase efficiency and productivity, but it can also cause great harm. That's why Senator Erin Maye Quade says we need AI regulations now, and she has the bipartisan bills to do it. Senator, welcome to Senate Spotlight.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Pleasure to meet you. So this session, you have a package of bills that were just heard on AI regulation. This is a subject you brought up last session as well. Why is this topic such a focus for you?
You know, it's been a really good, interesting bipartisan space that I've been working in, and with the rapid development and consumer-facing AI being completely unregulated, I've called it a 5-alarm fire for society. We have seen harm to children, harm to adults, harm to the environment, harm to consumer prices, you know, just data surveillance. It's been pretty shocking. And hopefully we would see the federal government step in and do something about this, and we've seen a complete lack of action. And in that absence of action, we've seen states step up. And so I'm part of many, many state legislatures across the country who are acting in the absence of federal action to regulate AI and make it safer for our communities.
You mentioned harm to children, and I've heard you speak about stories of children that have been harmed by the AI chatbots, and you have a bill aimed specifically at correcting that. So take me through what you've been hearing in your bill.
So the stories are pretty shocking. There are stories of children dying by suicide, engaging in self-harm, disordered eating, harming others. And then you look at even just the adults, right? You have the same issues, although you can add in like instigating acts of terrorism. AI-induced psychosis it's not a medical term, but it is a term that is being used a lot more. And it is because chatbots are designed to be engaging and never end a conversation. And so you take a developing brain, and also, you know, a lot of chatbots are also, they're designed to not cause like friction or tension, right? That happens in every human relationship, right? You might say something and someone might make a face like, oh, that's weird. And AI chatbot is designed to be like, that's amazing, keep going. And so you take a developing brain and you never end a conversation. So you have addictive behaviors. You have something that's designed for engagement. So it's going to default to the most engaging content. And for young people, that can be explicit content. It could be boundary pushing content. And with no human to kind of, you know, help co-set parameters around conversation, we're just seeing incredible harm. And then the last thing I'll say is that a lot of these conversations that, you know, these chatbots that they're having with these children, if it was another adult, it would be illegal. And yet, because it's a computer, it's not. And I find that to just be pretty shocking.
You talked about relationships with friction and tension, so I want to get back to the bipartisan nature of what you're seeing around this topic. You know, even red states like Texas and Florida are on board with banning or regulating AI's use by health insurers. You know, here in the Senate, you have some new allies for some of your bills. So what is it you think about this topic that's spanning the aisle?
Yeah, I think it's because the harm knows no party. Everybody uses tech. And some of the things that might naturally separate us by party or location or age or, you name your identifying characteristic, it fades away when it's a tech company, and it fades away when it's technology. And I think that because red states, purple states, blue states are seeing children be harmed, we are seeing addictive behaviors, we're seeing disorderly behavior, increase in schools. You have governors like Spencer Cox in Utah, and you have governors like Governor Healy out in Massachusetts working together on this. And so it's a really good space to be in a place where it's not like we've arrived at the same conclusion from different pathways of our politics. It's that we see the harm and agree completely and fully that this is just too harmful for children, certainly, and parts of society, and it needs to be regulated.
You've spoken about the harm also done to patients, right?
Yeah.
So you have a bill to ban health insurers from using AI for their review, evaluation, determination, or appeals processes. Tell me a little bit about that, and have you heard from these companies? Is there a will there to collaborate for better outcomes for everyone?
So the first thing I'll say is that the insurance industry basically exists to deny claims, right? That's why they exist. And so any technology that helps them do that faster, I'm not interested in. We already have a health insurance denial crisis in this country. I'm not trying to have technology help them make it worse. But right now in law, it says that a practitioner with the same or similar medical license has to make an adverse determination or deny the claim. And what the health plans say is, we always have a person do that. And so you shouldn't ban the use of AI in the other parts of reviewing a claim. But what they use AI for is to automatically sort out claims that they would have approved before. So for example, it costs hundreds of dollars to review a claim. Let's say you had a routine blood test that maybe cost the insurance company $150. It would actually cost them $250 in person time to review that claim. They will just approve it and then go on their merry way. But instead, they have an AI machine that can say, ooh, you put the address on the address 2 line instead of the address 1 line, or you put a space after the last name and it's too long, or this health diagnosis doesn't match what this blood test could be used for, and now it's automatically denied. Even though they might send it to a provider who hits deny at the end, AI has done all the work to get it to that. And what we've seen in reporting and research is that health plans like Cigna and United Health Group have taken batch denials. So you could deny 50,000 people in 1 month. They have spent as little as 1.2 seconds on medical claims and making denials. And so it has been shown that this AI technology, when deployed through health insurance companies, is being used to deny claims at a rapid pace for literally any reason. And that's not how we want health insurance to work.
Keeping with affordability, you have another bill on that topic relating to AI. That's Senate File 3098, which would prohibit the use of artificial intelligence to dynamically set product prices.
Yeah.
So tell me about the need for that kind of legislation.
So surveillance pricing is actually one of the reasons that we are seeing higher costs. It makes it incredibly difficult to comparison shop, because what companies do is they take all of the data that they have about you and then they set a personal price. So you and I could order from the same Target, the same gallon of milk for the same pickup time on the same day, but they would charge me more because they think they can get me to pay 20 cents more than they could get you to pay. And that is what surveillance pricing is. It is an individual price set to basically squeeze every last cent out of American consumers that they possibly can. And so Senate File 3098 would just simply say you can't set individual prices based on all this individual surveillance data that you gobbled up. Do you want to give discounts to loyal customers? By all means, go ahead. You want to give discounts to specified groups, veterans, teachers, students? Absolutely, go ahead. But how can you comparison shop between a Target and a Cub Foods if what you're getting charged at Target and Cub Foods is individual only to you and not to the price that the product actually is? And so that is what surveillance pricing is, and that's what my bill seeks to ban.
Yeah, and that sounds different from what people think of when they normally hear dynamic pricing, because there are arguments that dynamic pricing can put more products in reach for certain customers because the price is not set. So if the price is lower, they might have more access, right? But this is not that.
Correct. This is not that. This is trying to maximize the most money that you can get out of a person. And part of the social contract, right, is that there is a price point for a thing, and there are some prices that you might get at different locations, right? If it's a farther drive or a closer drive, depending on where you're at or the population that lives here, like those things actually impact prices by region, location, population. But this is saying, no, Erin Maye Quade, you have a different price for rice than your next door neighbor does from the same store at the same place at the same time on the same day.
Yeah, that's wild. I haven't heard about
it's
that.
It's terrible. And they've done studies and they used Minnesota as a test case. And so Minnesota stores have already been found to be doing this.
Wow. Well, thank you for bringing attention to that. Yeah. Your final bill in the package is Senate File 1886, which would require notification if people are interacting with AI. Like, tell me, why is that necessary? Because I'll see a little pop-up, on a window, and it says, "Can we help you?" And I'm like, oh, that must definitely be AI, right?
Yeah. I think the one that people don't realize is that a lot of the places you're calling to set up appointments are also AI. So this could be really important from the low stakes thing, like I need to return something, or I have a question about my product, to really high stakes, like I need to make an appointment for an urgent cancer treatment. And if you're talking to an AI agent and for whatever reason the AI agent just doesn't understand what you're asking, right? Like, I have this pair of jeans from this store, I'd like to return them, but I got them 3 months ago. Can I still return it? If it doesn't understand that question or that prompt, how are you to engage with the company to return your jeans? But on the more serious side, if you're calling and the AI agent picks up, you're making a cancer treatment appointment, and you're saying, I want to switch my appointment to a clinic that's farther away from where I live, but it's closer to where I work, so can I come to the Blaine location? If it doesn't understand that or makes the appointment at the wrong location, you could miss out on treatment. And so this just requires my bill to inform people that they're interacting with AI, and then have an option to talk to a human at some point. It doesn't require that you immediately get turned over to a human, whether that's email or in person or a phone call or a text or whatever they might come up with in the future, but that talking to an actual human is part of the process, because we deserve to have that human interaction as the course of business.
I have been stuck in that loop before where it's like, press 6, and then you press 6, then you get back to the original menu, and then you have to press 6 again, and it's just never ending. So yeah, definitely an opportunity to talk to an operator would be very helpful.
Always.
There.
Yes.
Let's go bigger picture. And you mentioned this in the beginning of the interview, but the federal government has said it should be the one to set AI regulations. So why do we need to get involved in that?
Well, the government hasn't set any AI regulations, and we are many years into this consumer-facing AI with zero regulations and lots of documented harm, and it's increasing. And I think this federal government in particular is in bed with these AI and tech companies. I mean, you watched those tech CEOs sit behind the president at the inauguration, and so I'm worried that industry has successfully lobbied and bought off pretty much any person that they would stand in their way. And in fact, we've seen that these tech companies have started at least 3 different PACs to challenge state-level legislators like myself, whether they're Republican or Democrats, right? They're just looking, are you getting in the way of us having unfettered access to your data and rolling out consumer-facing AI with no consequences? And so, the federal government has not acted. I would love it if it did, but we have so many strong consumer protections that exist in the physical world, and we have none in the digital world. And if the federal government isn't going to make any, states will.
You mentioned, there are already challenges at the state level. So if Minnesota moves forward, are we opening ourselves up to any costly court challenges?
We could be, but we wouldn't be alone. We would be in really great company. And at a certain point, you get so many states to pass same or similar laws, and you have effectively created a national regulation. And so a lot of us who are working on this space as state legislators work across both the political spectrum and the geographic distance of our country, because our goal is to essentially create what would be a national framework. We'll just do it state by state.
Okay, grassroots national framework. Okay, Senator, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Online gambling is illegal in Minnesota, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening. Now there's a bipartisan push to close a legal loophole that supporters say put Minnesotans at risk.
What we're trying to do is ensure that legitimate promotional sweepstakes can continue in the state of Minnesota while closing a loophole that's effectively allowing online gambling.
Senator Jordan Rasmusson's bill, Senate File 4474, aims to ban online dual currency sweepstakes games. These games allow players to buy gold coins and receive bonus sweeps coins that can then be used to play online casino-style games for the chance to win real cash prizes. The bill's supporters supporters say this type of online gambling lacks social and consumer safeguards. Both the state's Alcohol and Gambling Enforcement Division and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison have previously sent letters to several of these companies telling them to stop. Senator Rasmusson's bill includes penalties if they don't. Meanwhile, critics say the bill could actually hurt consumers even more by sending them straight to offshore operators.
When you try to ban digital behavior that people want, it doesn't disappear, it moves. And it usually moves to places that are harder to regulate and less safe for consumers.
So far, the bill has passed out of the Commerce and Consumer Protection and Judicial and Public Safety committees. It now waits to be heard in the State and Local Government Committee.
Autonomous vehicles can be a powerful resource for helping people with disabilities get around. So to increase accessibility here in Minnesota, Senator John Jasinski says the state needs to strike the right balance, creating enough regulations to welcome driverless rideshare services, but not so many that they build regulatory roadblocks. Senator, welcome to Senate Spotlight.
Hey, thanks, Veronica. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's been a while.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I think last I saw you was on that bonding tour.
Yes, it was.
All right. Well, today we're actually talking about transportation.
Sure.
You're a ranking minority on the Transportation Committee, and you guys have been hearing a lot about autonomous vehicles this session. So some people might not understand what that means in the context of how you guys are legislating. So let's talk about that. And are they here now?
They are here now. They're actually testing and doing some mapping with people in the cars. They're just trying to kind of map out the area of Minneapolis and St. Paul mostly. They have to do some research, so they're kind of testing. But there's no specific law right now that prohibits them, so it's kind of a gray area. But before an automated vehicle company would invest much money in coming here, they want to make sure that everything is legal and they have the regulations and everything and the safety procedures in place before they make that investment in coming here. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is to put that framework into place so they can come in Minnesota and make an investment and hopefully see how things work.
What are some of the potential benefits of bringing that technology here? Like, why do we want it?
Oh, because there's lots of people that can't drive right now. I mean, the Epilepsy Foundation came in. Some of their people can't drive, but to have this function and have this this type of technology to come in, hopefully at a low price, so they can afford to do that, give them their independence by having a vehicle available for them to ride around the state, Minneapolis and St. Paul as well. So it allows a lot of people that can't get to work for some reason or not, or don't have a license for some reason, a medical condition or something like that. So it just provides that technology to get them where they need to go.
Aside from the accessibility piece, we know that technology can be a bit of a double-edged sword. So what kind of concerns are there about having this here?
Well, I think Minnesota, the weather, there's that's some of the things we've heard about is the weather here in Minnesota, very icy and snowy and things like that is one of them. And obviously the companies that want to come here want to be safe, and there's been testing done in many other states. They're fully functioning in other states, so the technology is there. And there are the other states, I think it's New York and Michigan, there's been some winter testing in the elements, and that's going well. So they just want to expand their scope here in Minnesota. They want to get obviously nationwide, so they're coming to Minnesota to see if they can continue on with the technology here.
Why do you think the legislature is so interested in this session?
I don't know. It came to the topic. The governor's had a CAV task force for many years, and they've been doing some of the studying on this, and I've been on that. So they're looking at it. Obviously, technology is coming, and we want to make sure that we can continue on technology. It just seems to be the year the bills are here. I think there's 3 or 4 different bills. Now, I'm on a bill with Senator Johnson Stewart. Senator Dibble has his bill. I think there's a McEwen bill here in the Senate, and there's also Erin Maye Quade bill. So there's, I think, 4 bills that I've seen coming, different ones. Again, I think the one that is kind of the standard framework for other states is my bill and Senator Johnson Stewart's. Senator Dibble has another bill, and much more restrictive from what I've heard of any other state in the nation. So it's got a lot of regulations, and I call it, yesterday we were in committee, it's almost like death by regulation. There's so many regulations on there that I don't think these companies would come to Minnesota. So that's what I've been working to do, is trying to reduce some of these regulations so that these companies do want to come to Minnesota.
Well, then tell me more about your bill. That's Senate File 4010, and it kind of talks about public safety in relation to autonomous vehicles.
Well, we're trying to run, again, the governor's had a connected automated vehicle task force for years, so they've been studying this already, looking at things like that. So that my bill would go through MnDOT. There's already existing framework for that, for the regulation. I think Senator Dibble's bill goes through DPS, which puts many more regulations on there. Again, they have another group to look at it, and there's many people on that. But really, it's already existed for years through the MnDOT side of it and looking at that. So I believe that's the easier track to go through. Again, we've been working on it for years already. So to put a whole new different board into place with Senator Dibble's bill, just to me, it seems, again, it's death by regulation here. So.
What kind of regulations would you be in favor of? Because I heard in committee that this is emerging technology, so maybe it's best to kind of rein it in before it gets a hold, and we have to walk back some of that.
Sure, and in Minneapolis and St. Paul, there are obviously some issues, if there's a concert going on downtown or a football game at US Bank Stadium. So they'll be looking at doing some geo mapping and things like that where, where the cars could stop, loading, unloading, things like that are some of the concerns that I'm hearing from the metro cities. Now in rural Minnesota, we don't have quite those choke points like they do here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So I think it's just to make sure that they operate smoothly, they're not holding up traffic in certain areas. If something would happen, is there a technology that could be taken over if an issue happens, and how does that happen? So I think we want to make sure they're safe in that way, so they're not having an impact on traffic.
Any idea or best guess when I can just use my phone and order up a driverless vehicle?
Well, I hope sooner than later. The bill, Senator Dibble's bill, pushes it way out till 2028, and I just don't think we need to wait that long. I think technology is there. Again, these are operating in Arizona, California, and places like that. Michigan, there's a bunch of stuff going on there. So I'm hoping 2027. But again, things seem to technically move a little slow around here. So we're trying, and I'm hoping sometime in 2027 or 2028. They're out there again. They are testing, they're mapping, they're doing a lot of work. They're doing investments already to make sure that the cars see everything and how the objects are seen by the car, and mapping the streets out and parking and all those things. So the technology is going now, but we just got to get a framework in place so that they can make that investment and come here to Minnesota.
Speaking to the idea of a framework, your bill hopes to create a statewide regulatory framework. Tell me a bit more about why that's important to you.
Well, you can't have a hodgepodge in the city. Like, for example, I think there's there's like 27 or 127 different municipalities within the 7-county metro area. And if you have one that opts out, and then what's one of the amendments I did yesterday is that a city cannot opt out. It's got to be able to be operating in that city. Because, for example, if you want to get here to Minnetonka and there's 4 cities in between that don't allow it, it's just not going to be working. So you have to have a statewide program that it's going to allow anywhere. So if you get in a car and you want to go to a certain area, you know that you don't have a barrier of getting to that area. So I think just the statewide is the important thing to me, and important to the automated vehicle industry, that they just have to be able to get around and not be, a hodgepodge of different cities having different regulations, different fees. So again, we think a statewide is better to make that happen more easily.
We actually already have some autonomous vehicles here. Lawnmowers. That was your idea. Your bipartisan bill, Senate File 75, allows the Department of Transportation to research and evaluate autonomous mower technology. How did that idea come about for you?
I've said this story many times, but I drive back and forth from Faribault to St. Paul, and a lot of times you get stuck in traffic on Interstate 35, and it's backed up for miles and miles, and you think there must be some big accident, and you actually get through the traffic. It's them mowing the ditches, and you got the mowing vehicle, and you have 3 vehicles behind that. You have a vehicle ahead of that, so you have all this all these people working just to mow the lawn. So, and we want to be safe, and I get that. I just thought there must be a better way. So instead of driving down the freeway or the highway, why don't you mow it from the inside with something more automated that they're not affecting traffic as much? So I was at a tour of Cirrus Aircraft up in Duluth, and we started talking about these gentlemen who were doing robotics, and they were actually using robots to mow underneath solar fields. And I said, wow, I just was thinking about that the other day, about doing it in ditches. So we can do that. So that made me start thinking about doing that. So we drafted a bill to start the program, to get a pilot, to see if we can get the technology to do that. So that's how it all started. It's progressing. They are doing testing. That bill did get passed. They're still not out mowing yet. They do have some other remote controlled ones for the steep slopes along freeway ramp and things like that, but the ones that are automated are not there yet. The bill that I did allowed for the purchase of one to test that. Originally, I wanted to test it on I-35 between Faribault and Burnsville, and they didn't think that was the best thing. They want to actually go to a test track. So MnDOT does have a test facility where they wanted to try that and do that. So hopefully it's coming along, and it's not exactly where I want it yet, but hopefully they're working along, and I got to check in with them again to see where we're at, but they're not out there yet.
Well, in addition to helping with the flow of traffic and also, I would imagine, improving safety for those road workers, this could save us money too, right?
Absolutely. As I said, when you're driving up and you see that, you have 3 or 4 different vehicles, all using gas. You have 3 or 4 or 5 employees. So if you actually had the technology, you could have a lot less cost in doing that. So, and the safety, they're out of the right of way. It's not a human, so if there is an accident, they're not going to get hurt. So I think it's a great way that we can save money, be safer, and just be more efficient. So.
Well, I hope they pop up on your commute soon. All right, Senator, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely.
Are you looking forward to seeing autonomous vehicles on our roads, or do you think Minnesota's winter weather is too much for AI to tackle? Join the conversation by leaving us a comment on our social media pages.
We did not find out about the potential for a hyperscale data center until the city had already been working on the process for over a year. With something as dramatic as a data center that will literally impact every aspect of the city of Monticello, we deserve to be part of the whole process.
When citizens feel unrepresented and do not trust their government, that is not a healthy democracy.
I know what it is to be kept in the dark, being a resident desperately fighting to be heard, even in a small town of fewer than 4,000 people. But finding that the democratic process where my voice is supposed to matter has been hijacked by big tech.
Testifiers told the Senate's State and Local Government Committee story after story about how non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs, tied to data center development plans have impacted their communities.
Instead of the likelihood that my property value will increase over time, I face the likelihood that it will decrease. I ask you to approve SF 4296 and SF 4379 so that no other communities suffer from a lack of information like I did.
The stories were shared in support of Senator Erin Maye Quade's bipartisan bills, Senate File 4296 and Senate File 4379. Senate File 4296 requires municipalities to hold public hearings and make certain disclosures before approving data center projects, and Senate File 4379 bans them from signing NDAs that would stop them from sharing information with the public, with some exceptions.
This proposed project, the size, the purpose, the user, the number of buildings, the landscaping, what it would look like, was a secret. And the public hearing to approve this master development plan of secret, extensive acreage time and money lasted for exactly 6 minutes. This proposed project was given a code name, Project Bigfoot. It was only after the project was approved by Rosemount City Council and announced to the public that Project Bigfoot was revealed to be a 715,000 square foot, $800 million data center for Meta. Residents of Rosemount did not have the opportunity to go in front of their city council and say, please don't do this, or please do this, or why are you doing this, or who is the company? This bill is not about how we feel about data centers. It's about government transparency. Minnesotans have a right to know what their elected officials are doing, and this is a problem we need to fix this year. We cannot let code names, aliases, and NDAs become the norm in Minnesota. We must have public transparency and public input.
If things are happening in the community that are outside of the will of the people, it's not the state's job to fix their election problem.
Local government are creatures of the state government. That's how our government is designed here. We give them the duties, responsibilities, limitations, and boundaries in which to operate, and that's our job.
Both bills have passed out of committee and are waiting to be debated on the Senate floor.
That's all the time we have today. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time.